It's Justin Dawson back with another episode of the All Things TechIE podcast where we're talking about Meta letting go of a load of staff globally. We have an interview with Deep Care Technologies and also age verification to look at websites. All coming up on episode 146 of the All Things TechIE podcast.
Here's the show that loves to talk about gadgets and gizmos, from A-Logic to Yamaha, cameras to control panels. You get what I mean. We love talking all things techie. In fact, that's the name of the show. And here is your host, Justin Dawson.
Welcome along. It's episode 146 of the All Things TechIE podcast. My name is Justin Dawson. And if you'd like to get in contact with the program, you can always get in contact via YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn and Instagram at Sir Justin Dawson. You can also find us on the web at www.allthingstech.ie. And of course, if you're listening to us wherever you get your podcast, please like, comment, share and subscribe. We have a great program coming up for you today, talking about Meta letting go of a load of staff. We'll be getting to that in a couple of minutes' time. I've been traveling a lot lately in the past couple of weeks. I've seen some vendors and some of my sales reps at least 3 times in the space of the same amount of weeks, between Shure, Panasonic, Crestron. So over to LTSMG, the Learning Technology Space Management Group there in Coventry. Flew into Birmingham with my colleague Patrick there at the beginning of April, just after Easter. And then we went into university settings and did also a charity game of football. Yeah, I haven't played football in 20 years, and there's going to be a great podcast episode now. I know it's going to be probably just audio episode of the LTSMG podcast. It's worthwhile listening to. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of editing to do because they did mic up the referee Aaron on the day. It was the vendors versus the delegates. They won cheekily by 1 goal. But I haven't played football in over 20 years, and I shined up my football boots. Like, they have plastic studs on them, shined them all up and everything, thinking, okay, I can do this. It was 10 minutes on and 10 minutes off with the amount of squad that we had. My God, in the first 2 minutes, my sole of my football boot fell off, so I had to rip off the soles. And so I had no grip on the pitch, and that's the excuse I'm sticking to. Even some of the guys from Sharp NEC running past me, Sammy Buse and stuff like that, running past me on the wings, I couldn't keep up with them. Maybe I am unfit. Yeah, don't answer that. I am probably unfit. I need to get back into my fitness. But great fun anyways. I think nearly £2,000 raised as well during the charity football game and the raffle as well. And great company, great university, the University of Warwick to visit as well. So had fun there. Following week, it was the AV user group with Owen Ellis over in Dublin in the Google headquarters, and had a load of talks there as well. And then this week I've just had a show and tell with some of the same guys in Dublin City University as well yesterday rather. So in a couple of weeks' time, going off on a family holiday to France, and then after that going over to SCOMS in Edinburgh with 3 different universities. So a busy period. Like the summer months have come. The main job on campus, the term has ended, but like it's just busy and a lot of things to catch up on and a lot of things to report on. Really want to thank again. I love when I start traveling and some people that I haven't met in the past few months, between vendors and delegates, both asking like how things are going with my son Kieran, and love all the reports that I do on neurodiversity as well. So and my autism awareness campaigns that you will find over on my personal website, sirjustindawson.com, and really appreciate those that really just spend the time, ask the questions, and are genuinely interested in the advocacy that I'm doing. So really appreciate that as well. If you want to get in contact with the program, as I mentioned, you can contact the All Things TechIE podcast by getting in contact with us through the social medias. You can find me on socials, Sir Justin Dawson, across LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram and YouTube at Sir Justin Dawson. And there's the All Things TechIE podcast website as well, if you want to get in contact. You also find the All Things TechIE podcast and all the podcast episodes at sirjustindawson.com. If you haven't seen this website, if you're looking on the actual video of this on YouTube, there's my personal website now. Again, do all my product reviews. There's a couple of new product reviews and about what I'm doing. My autism advocacy, you can read up on my publications and writings there as well. About hidden disabilities and Amazon and the cost of connection, some of my latest writings there. And of course, under the podcast tag, you will find 140 plus episodes of the All Things TechIE podcast as well. So do check that out, sirjustindawson.com. Now, Meta. For the next 10 minutes, we're going to unpack the massive earthquake in the tech industry, one that is hitting incredibly close to our home for the tech sector here in Ireland. Facebook's parent company, Meta, has just announced that it's cutting 10% of its global workforce. We're talking about approximately 8,000 staff losing their jobs. And if that wasn't enough, the company has also called a complete halt to filling thousands of open jobs, 6,000 vacant roles to be exact, that it had previously planned to recruit for. Now, the real story here isn't just the numbers, it is why this is happening. Behind these huge layoffs is a relentless, aggressive shift towards artificial intelligence. In a memo issued to staff, Meta's Chief People Officer, Janelle Gale, explained these cutoffs are part of an effort to run the company more efficiently, and to offset other massive investments the company is making. Those investments, they are almost entirely AI. According to an insider who viewed the company memo, Meta is projected to spend an astonishing $135 billion, that's roughly £100 billion, on AI projects this year alone. To put that into perspective, that single year figure is roughly equal to the amount Meta has spent on AI in the previous 3 years combined. They are quite literally buying into the future. Just earlier this month, Meta agreed to pay a company called CoreWeave roughly $21 billion just to assess their cloud AI capacity through to December 2032. This comes on top of a $14.2 billion deal that they've signed with them last September, bringing Meta's total contracts with CoreWeave to a staggering $35 billion. So, what does this pivot look like for the human beings actually working at Meta? Well, for some, it's pretty dystopian. Meta platforms have offered a very clear glimpse in what do they think the future looks like. Training and supervising artificial intelligence systems to do the best tasks that used to be someone's job. That's if you still have a job. Even in Silicon Valley standards, Meta have been unusually aggressive at forcing AI into the daily workflows of its employees. This year, the company actually started grading its employees based on their AI during their performance reviews. They have flattened out their corporate structure, creating ultra-flat teams with almost no managers, and are even developing a so-called CEO agent. Mark Zuckerberg, Meta CEO, hasn't exactly hidden its intentions. In January, he made public comments essentially telegraphing that more jobs would be cut. He noted how productive workers who relied on AI tools had become. He stated, "We're starting to see projects that are used to be big teams now be accomplished by a very talented person." He added that his belief in that 2026 is going to be the year of the AI starts to dramatically change the way we work. But here it gets really uncomfortable for the staff. Just this week, the company informed its employees that it would be begin to tracking and logging their interactions with their work computers. Every click, every keystroke. The goal? To help train and improve Meta's AI models. One employee spoke to the media and described the move as dystopian, especially given the looming layoffs, noting that the company has become entirely obsessed with artificial intelligence. Now, what does this mean for us here over in Ireland with Meta headquarters? As we know, Meta is a major employer in Dublin. The company's Irish operation employs around 1,800 people. While a spokesperson for Meta Ireland didn't comment on the exact details of how these 8,000 global cuts will impact local staff, the writing is pretty much on the wall. This isn't the first round of cuts. Irish-based staff were impacted by redundancies in January of last year, when Meta cut 5% of its lowest performing staff globally. They previously cut around 840 jobs in Ireland through rounds of redundancies in November 2022 and May 2023. And just last month, it emerged that 15 jobs in the Irish operation were under threat, specifically linked to the adoption of AI. Our government is paying close attention. Our Prime Minister, or Taoiseach Micheál Martin, responded to the news while attending an EU summit in Cyprus earlier this week. He warned that while the exact details of the Meta job losses were unclear, there is a major concern about the impact of AI on jobs. He stated, quite frankly, we should be mindful that there could be significant upheaval in the jobs market over the next decade, and warned it could happen earlier rather than later. The government is currently looking at proposals to identify the long-term implications of artificial intelligence on the world of work. And while Ireland continues to invest in AI to capture new jobs from the industry, the Taoiseach stressed that the global changes bring very real concerns. For those Meta employees in the US who are losing their jobs, they will receive a severance package that includes 16 weeks of base pay plus 2 weeks for every year of employment. Packages outside the US will be similar but will vary by local laws. According to Janelle Gale's memo, one impacted will receive an email to both their work and personal accounts by May the 20th. She acknowledged that this pain causes, noting that it leaves everyone with a month of ambiguity, which he called incredibly unsettling. Before we wrap up this segment, we need to zoom out because Meta is not operating in a vacuum. Tech CEOs suddenly love blaming AI for mass job cuts. It's between, I guess, AI and war. A number of other tech firms are spending huge sums on building AI tools and infrastructure, and they are enacting swathes of job cuts alongside it. Amazon has laid off more than 30,000 workers. Oracle has laid off more than 10,000 workers. Block laid off nearly half its staff, more than 4,000 workers. And Snap has cut around 1,000 jobs to prioritise AI and savings. Just this Thursday, Microsoft told its employees it would offer thousands of workers voluntary buyouts. Nearly all of these companies are citing the growing capabilities of AI technology as the direct reason they suddenly need fewer human employees. The shift from human capital to artificial intelligence is no longer a futuristic prediction. It is happening right now. It is reshaping the corporate structures of the biggest companies in the world, and it's reshaping the job market right here in Ireland. We want to hear from you. Are you seeing AI replace tasks in your workplace? Let us know across my socials, and follow me on socials on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn and YouTube. And you can also find my official website, sirjustindawson.com as well, where you will find ways of getting in contact with the programme, and also the All Things TechIE podcast website, www.allthingstech.ie. It is the All Things Techie podcast. I'm your host, Justin Dawson, and we are dedicating the next 15-minute segment to the massive sprawling debate taking over the global tech world. keeping kids off social media and the controversial technology governments want us to use to do it. Let's set the stage. Right now, all across Europe and the globe, lawmakers are drawing the line in the sand. In Norway, the government is currently holding a public consultation on the potential new law to prohibit social media access for anyone under 15. But we are far from the only country. They are far from the only country that wants to do this. Look at Australia. In December 2025, Australia became the first country to implement a comprehensive, inescapable social media ban for under 16s. And they didn't mess around. The law blocked kids from making accounts like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, X and Facebook, and parents were not allowed to overrule the ban. Since the law came into force, social media companies have deactivated more than 4.5 million accounts. Across the Atlantic, the US state of Florida has prohibited children from under 14 from creating accounts, while California juries are finding tech giants like Meta and YouTube for negligence for deliberately designing platforms that addict children. And in France, the National Assembly overwhelmingly passed a bill banning social media for under 15s with enforcement planned for September of 2026. In fact, the European Parliament recently backed a resolution calling for an EU-wide minimum social media age limit of 16. So the political will is there, the public support is there. In Europe, 75% of surveyed citizens agree that the governments should be setting minimum ages for people using social media. But here is the million-dollar technical question that we're asking on this episode of All Things Techie podcast, that we have to ask: how on earth do you actually enforce a data ban? You see, banning children does not mean stopping kids from logging on. It requires websites to prove that every single one of their users is an adult. If they fail, they face a massive EU fines of up to 10% of their global annual takeover. So how do you control this? You see, banning children doesn't mean stopping kids from logging on. It requires the websites to prove that every single one of their users is an adult. If they fail, they face massive EU fines of up to 10% of their global annual turnover. And how do you prove you're an adult? The European Union believes you have the ultimate technological silver bullet. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen recently announced that a new digital age verification app is technically ready and will soon be rolled out to its citizens. It is an open source app compatible with your smartphone or tablet, and works like this. You download the app, you set it up by scanning your physical passport or your national ID card. Then, when you go to access a social media platform, the app securely proves your age to the website, just like a bouncer checking your age ID at a nightclub. Several countries have been already testing it. Ireland is currently emerging as the major frontrunner, developing a digital wallet app that verifies a user's age based on their PPS number, which is their national insurance number. The Irish government is asking for public volunteers to test its digital wallet right now, with plans to make it mandatory for private companies like social media sites by the end of 2027. The EU insists that it is safe. Von der Leyen stressed that the system is completely anonymous, designed to confirm your age without handing over your sensitive personal data or your passport directly to Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk. EU's digital chief, Henna Virkkunen, explicitly said, "We don't want platforms to scan our passport or face." Before we celebrate this triumph, is it even a triumph, of the European digital policy, we need to look at the dark side of this technology. Is a government-backed digital ID really the best way to protect our kids, or is it a Trojan horse for mass surveillance online? Let's look at the technical reality first. History shows us that age verification systems are incredibly easy to bypass. Take China, for example. In 2021, the Chinese government implemented a strict ban limiting under 18s to just 3 hours of video games a week. To enforce this, they used state-backed physical ID verification and biometric facial scanning. Did it work? Absolutely not. Data shows that nearly 4 in 5 young Chinese gamers actively circumvented the restrictions. They bought fake accounts online, they borrowed their older relatives' IDs, and incredibly, they even held their phones up to their televisions using live images of video game characters to trick the biometric facial scanners into thinking they were adults. We saw the exact same thing happen in England. Following the UK's Online Safety Act, the voice call platform Discord tried to require UK users to scan their faces to prove their age. Within hours, users were using video game characters to perform algorithmically required gestures to bypass security, and custom software was quickly developed to ignore the digital controls entirely. Even EU officials admit this is a problem. One anonymous EU official conceded that kids could easily use VPNs or just ask an older sister to unlock the app for them, though they argued the system is still worth to prevent unintended exposure. But with the technical failures are nothing compared to the massive privacy backlash. Civil liberties and digital rights groups are sounding the alarm, warning that these digital wallets will effectively destroy online anonymity. And actually, I have to agree that this is, I believe, a step too far. You should have the freedom to browse the internet, look at legal sites, not illegal sites, look at legal sites. But should you be monitored on what you're doing online? Was this the creation of the internet for that reason? No. Is using digital scanning and PPS numbers the way forward with Ireland and digital wallets? I don't think so. Sarah Riley, the CEO of the advocacy group Free Speech Ireland, has vehemently opposed the digital wallet rollout, and we must get Sarah O'Reilly on the programme at some stage. She warned that trying your official identity to your online presence is a direct attack on privacy. Her argument is simple. Speaking truth to power means protecting anonymity. A free society and a free press are dependent on the functions of as whistleblowing and anonymous sources. Think about it. If the state has centralised digital identifier linked to your Facebook or your X account or social media account, the government suddenly has the technical capability to easily track your comments, whether you're private or whether you're public. Critics argued that this fast track to a digital gulag where government monitors not just children, but they're also monitoring adults. And what happens when these massive government databases get hacked? Because, look, it's a government database. It is prolonged. It's going to be attempted to be hacked because they always do. We've already seen data breaches related to corporate age verification, like when 70,000 IDs were compromised on Discord. And governments aren't any better at cybersecurity. In 2021, Ireland suffered a catastrophic cyber attack on the health service, the HSE, compromising 80% of their IT infrastructure and resulting in sensitive medical information being published on the dark web. Are we really ready to trust that our digital passports and national IDs will be perfectly safe in a centralised app? Finally, there's a growing concern and chorus of experts who argue that by focusing on digital IDs, we are completely letting the tech companies off the hook. Digital rights groups like EDRI and the child safety advocates like UNICEF argue that focusing on age gates distracts them from the root cause of the problem. Simeon de Broer from EDRI put perfectly, he says, the real issue is the platform's complete lack of accountability for the psychological harm they design and profit from. Instead of forcing everyday citizens to scan their passports to browse the internet, these groups argue that we should legally be forcing platforms to fix their addictive algorithms, stop using targeted advertising on minors, and implementing safety by design. So, podcast listeners and viewers, that is the landscape. We are standing at the major crossroads for future of the internet. Do we accept the EU's age verification app as a necessity, or a necessary shield to protect vulnerable generation from the darker corners of social media? Or are we blindly walking into an era of a mandatory digital IDs that will strip away our online privacy, endanger whistleblowers, and do absolutely nothing to actually fix the algorithms harming our kids? I want to hear from you. Drop a thought in the comments. Hit me up on X or leave a voice note on our website. You can actually contact us in the contact us section here on the All Teens TechIE website. If you just find my mouse, if you go down to send voicemail, you can send a little voicemail to us and you can start the recording, send it over to the All Teens TechIE podcast, thanks to SpeakPipe, and we will get it there. And you can also contact me across the socials, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube, or comments at allthingstech.ie. Love to hear what you think of it. We'll be back right after this speaking with Deep Care Technologies and the ISA that helps you with sitting properly at your desk at work, drinking enough water. I know I don't drink enough water. And movement breaks, whether you're working in an office capacity or working from home. All that to come on the All Things TechIE podcast. This is the All Things Techie podcast. I am Justin Dawson, your host, and this is episode 146 of the All Things Techie podcast. You can find all previous episodes of the All Things Techie podcast by visiting our official website, www.allthingstech.ie, where you will find 145 audio and video episodes of the All Things Techie podcast. All previous episodes available on our official website, www.allthingstech.ie. Now, I know I don't sit properly in my chair most of the day. I know I sit at my desk a lot of the day, and I should do more movement breaks and drink more water. And while I was over at the Consumer Electronics Show, CES 2026, back in January, I came across Deep Care Technologies, and I sat down during the week to do an interview with one of the co-founders of Deep Care. It's the All Things Techie podcast. I have had one of these products on my desk for, I say now, near 2 to 3 months now, in my office on campus. It teaches me to behave myself. Well, in a certain sense, it is a desk unit that looks very much like, I would describe it like a Stream Deck in size, because a lot of our listeners and viewers would be familiar with the Stream Deck. This thing doesn't connect to the internet, but it uses AI to tell you to sit straight, to drink more water, how long you've been sitting at your desk, and move about and exercise. It's from Deep Care. Millard Gervand, one of the co-founders and CEO of Deep Care, joins us on the All Things Techie podcast. Welcome along.
Hi, Justin. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, where did it all start off for you, Millard? How did this concept come about?
Yeah. So actually, it started from a personal story. Almost back to 5-6 years ago, I was with Bosch. I was a product owner there. I was like a lot of hours at desk, and then I started having back pain. And then I went to my physiotherapist on the campus in that time, and he told me that, look, Willard, actually, it's just a starting of the whole thing. You are just young, and a lot of bad habits during the day kind of could result to many, many different aspects of, let's say, illnesses or issues. You have to be careful because now it's just a little bit of back pain, but if you don't care, when you get 50 plus and so on, it could end up to diabetes and many other things.
Wow.
And that was like kind of scary. In that time, he was giving us even a category. He says, okay, you are another office worker. And then I remember in that time I looked at a statistic in Germany and I saw, wow, from every three office worker, two has registered some sort of pain in the last 2 years. I said, that's a real huge things. Like we should kind of do something for that. And that's actually a started.
Mm.
So it was very funny because the physiotherapist was telling me a lot of things like do this, sit like that, and kind of try to move every half an hour and so on, which was cool. I remember I had a note at my desk for a while,
But
but
how many people actually do that? Like yeah,
exactly.
you stick that little poster beside your monitor and go, yeah, that's nice.
Exactly. And then for 1 week was good. And then after a week, I saw, okay, the problem is not really the knowledge I have. This physiotherapist tried to brainwash me, but still, I came back to my work. And after a week, it was the same as before, right? I came back to all of my habits. And then we said, okay, actually, I need this physiotherapist become a small, just come and sit next to me, has nothing to do than caring about my health and kind of guide me whenever I need help,
Mhm.
which was really cool. That was like the initial idea. We went out and talked to a lot of people from users to corporations and so on, and we always got a massive positive feedback. And it went quite quick. Like when we introduced the product, even the first year, we got more than 100 corporate clients implementing us
Uh,
in a small region, which we didn't believe it. Almost in the second year, majority of health insurances in Germany implemented that, and it's just going forward. And now we are in the US. So we are going to do the same thing in the US.
and it's fantastic. Like I always think that something like this, especially from the working from home environment, it's a great. I always thought maybe this came around during COVID and lockdown and everyone working from home and saying that they don't have their office set up correctly. But that's just one area that you could delve into. The fact is that a lot of people, when they're left to their own device, and they set up their office on whether it be in a university capacity like I work in or whatever, sometimes you just go, okay, you have your desk. They don't think about their chair, their shape, the size of their desk, the height of their desk, until like yes, there is, as you mentioned, there's health and safety wardens that might work in a university that might come into your office on request. But usually the point is people leave that too late. They wait till they have the pain in their back and go,
Yeah.
maybe I should actually have an assessment and get these things done.
Yeah.
Your device is taking the whole step away from that and going, right, place this on your desk. It's not recording. It's so on that basis, let's make this very clear. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people will think about the security and everything. It's not connecting to the internet. It's local, but it doesn't have a camera in it either. It's just sensors that's detecting the way you're sitting on your chair.
Yeah, exactly. So when we started, we very fast came to the point that respecting the data of the user is
Right.
kind of the most important priority we should take care. Because also, if we could have not done that and we would have just go to a still data here and there, which still we don't want and we will never want, there is no way to implement it in like robust and running big corporations like that.
Hmm.
And then what we implemented is kind of very unique. So our product doesn't see you with a camera. We just measure the distance. We build a 3D model of your body, but we don't know if Justin or Milad is sitting in front of that. We are able to, in a very good accuracy, track your more or less a spine over time or body over time, and kind of also your behavior over time, and give you feedback, everything locally. So you don't need to connect it to internet. At the end, this is something between you and yourself. So, like, what is very at the moment is kind of underrated or under even estimated is the effect of a healthy musculoskeletal on your, let's say, body. And that is exactly what we do. We very accurately measure every single movement, every single posture over time that could affect the health of your spine. And due to that, we are able to run kind of how healthy actually your spine is. And whenever we see that there is a load going high that could hurt you either short term or long term, we give you the right advice at the right time that you need it, that you make a proper change. So that was like the product that we introduced in the last 2 to 3 years. But the cool thing is, like from beginning of this year, we started with our new feature, which we do exactly the same thing, but on your cognitive capability, or actually on your brain. I guess this is a version you didn't test, Justin.
No, no,
Surprise for you too.
the parts that I did test, which I have to say, and I always am very conscious. Like, I worked in a private sector for years, and literally I would never be at my desk because I would be that busy with calls, setting up audiovisual events, setting up stages, bringing people microphones over a building that was 7 floors and 2,000 employees. That, like, going to a job now where I know I sit too long at my desk.
Yeah.
And so that awareness of getting up and moving is great. The other one feature that I really loved is I know I don't drink enough water throughout the day. And that was essential, of going like a little vibration every couple of minutes, or every like 15 minutes or so, going, have you drank a glass of water? It actually makes you aware. But you're now saying that like the next step now is the cognitive, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do. That's cool that you mentioned, like when we implemented this automatic tracking of water drinking. That is like a really cool feature that a lot of people like, and nobody else has done it. Like nobody can measure how much you are drinking over time, water. And then now the next step that we have implemented everything is now on beta usage by several of our customers and users is we call it ISA Mind, which is ISA is the name of the product, and this service called ISA Mind. And this service goes onto cognitive load and actually brain and mental health. What we do, we track many other factors which affects on your, let's say, mental health. We track how much you are in flow and focus, and sometimes in focus fatigue, with a lot of different parameters that we have. We track the level of stress you have. We track the level of, let's say you are in back-to-back in meetings, for example, and you
Yes.
have a lot of switching focus, which creates a lot of switching cost, we call it, on your cognitive or mental health. All of that we track, and at the same time, we track every activity which has a positive impact onto your mental health. And we give it to you, and at the same time, also again coach you that at the end of the day, on the sense of mental health, you do a lot of good mini contribution, but at the end, you feel much more energy at the end of the day, and bring kind of the same coaching that you have seen so far, also on the mental aspect on your desk.
And that sounds really, really cool. But I know every listener and viewer are going to go, but how? How are you tracking this? Like, especially if it's a sensor, like, there's no reminder, there's no camera in this device. So are you taking a facial mapping of the face and the eyes to know if a user is tired, or the facial expression if they're annoyed, angry, emotionally upset?
So emotional detection we don't do because that's not aligned with EU AI Act, unfortunately, and we are
Okay.
a European company.
Yeah.
We respect that. But what we do is we do a lot of blinking detection, which is one of the
Okay.
big
Right.
factors of detecting if you are in flow or not. We detect on head movement versus shoulder movement, and we analyze a lot. We gathered so many data from many, many different people when they were in flow, when they were not in flow, and so on. For example, if your cell phone is calling and you have it in hand, and we know immediately, so you're
Very good, because you know the movement of the phone to you. Yeah.
and also the amount of distraction you get if somebody is just continuously coming to you and distract you, and all of that we track. And on top, we detect also the level of stress you have. For level of stress, we analyze the breathing that you have, the upper part of your chest, lower part of your chest, and the breathing variability that you have, because the quality of your breathing has a kind of massive effect or massive, let's say, indication for the level of stress you have. If you are stressed, you typically breathe faster, shallower. And in the other way around, if you're relaxed, then you breathe kind of a slower, normal mode. Plus, on top of that, your posture also is a strong indicator for stress. Just to give you one example, with more than 1,000 users, we have gathered data, and we clearly know those who are not in a stress, they are typically in layback.
Of
Those
course, yeah,
in
and
stress,
guilty. I'd be just like sitting back on my chair, and then Isa will tell me it's like you're not sitting properly. Just I was like, okay, fine, yeah. Like there's times where you like feel like just go, where's the mute button there? You're like, okay, I'm not sitting properly. Okay, fine,
at
yeah.
least you don't have a stress. That's good. Like a lot of different factors and parameters comes into our AI model, and then kind of the AI model decide the level of stress and so on. So all of these parameters just is calculated. Maybe worth to mention, we are one of those unique companies raising now that we have our own AI model developed really from zero. We are not using any LLM from OpenAI or whatever. We are just developing everything on our own because our inputs is very special, is kind of, let's say, this specific type of sensor that we have with others. And also it needs to be so effectively implemented that we can run it on the edge, on the device. So that makes everything unique. But coming back to your question, how we measure it, is a lot of science behind
Mhm.
plus a lot of AI developments. It has been many years of developments, which is cool because everything is by us developed.
But what I love is like you have the features that I mentioned earlier. You have the sitting properly. You have the fact that I'm not drinking enough water. Movement around. I love the fact that you have little videos inside
Yeah,
these to tell you like okay, and it's simple office scenarios of doing little workouts and not telling you to go on a run around the local park. They're
yeah,
just telling you to like, okay, let's lift the arm a couple of times. Let's move the feet. Let's stand up at our desk and do a couple of stretches, which is fantastic, especially when you have your own office. Um,
yeah,
Sometimes I would think, does this work as well in an open plan building? I've worked in open plan
yeah,
buildings. You would have people walking by you. Maybe
yeah.
it goes to what you were talking about as well. People distracting you and stress. They will know that the person sitting in front of them is the person that they're trying to measure.
Yeah, so that's a very valid point. To be fair, there when we started, actually there were no home office. We started a little bit before the COVID came.
Okay.
So everything we developed was kind of for normal office and let's say shared space. And at the moment, it's rather like 50% of our users are home office workers, 40% are pure office, and 10% are hybrid, like they are just everywhere, like one day in hotel when they carry the product with themselves. So actually now we are covering everybody, but on the usage side, we clearly see those who are in home office, for example, they do much more exercise at home during the work.
Mhm.
Like we have super users that they do every half an hour a lot of exercises of us. And those who are at office instead, they follow or they are very active on some other features. But at the end, the engagement level is almost the same. That's a cool part because like among all of our users, so what is very important KPIs for our company generally is if a user starts with our product, do they after a month still are the same engaged or they just turn it off after 2 weeks? And so far, 96% of our users have been kind of the same engaged. And actually, a good portion of that, the engagement goes higher. Because if you lose it for 6 months or 9 months and you feel good with so many mini or micro atomic behavior change, So why not? Like it doesn't take too much energy.
Well, do you know what? I decided to change out my chair in my office, and just because that, and I always now have my water bottle right beside me. It's like, right, fine, I'm drinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
it actually is the subconscious of that it really works. The other thing a point I'd love to make out to our listeners and viewers is that you get an like your screen will change to a little QR code, which you personally can scan to get your results over a week or fortnightly basis. Now, whether you want to share that with people, that's your own choice, but that is your own personal information of how long you were sitting on the desk, your posture for the whole week. And I
Yeah.
have seen that I have improved. I definitely have. Um,
Yeah.
so what the one I have is just the ESA. You have a couple of different models. You have the Pro model as well. Do you find that or have you heard of employees going back to their employers and going, okay, this is my results and measurements. I want you to give me a stand-up desk, or I want you to change my office desk layout.
Yeah. So a lot of our users, really a lot of them, they change their setup. Very few have gone to their, let's say, employer and say, now I need a better chair. Um, they just do it by themselves because at the end is your health. If you get a better lamp or better chair or desk and so on, kind of, I guess is like a good investment that anyway you do for your health. So we have seen really a lot. Like when I say that in a weekly base, we always receive feedbacks. Wow, thanks to Isa, now I know my environment is too dark and I get a lamp or my desk and chair and so on, I change it. Very little we have seen that people go to employer and ask them to buy something for them. We had some cases that the amount of CO2 on the air was constantly too high, and there they requested us, so what should I do? I say, okay, you have the window, just open it up. They did it, but still it was very fast coming in. Again, that's kind of the airflow was not good in that floor
Mm.
or that environment. And then we requested them, please go and talk to your employer because that's like, it sounds like a building thing that they could make a better airflow. So such kind of things reach to employer, but we typically see that people just do it by themselves on their own side, on their own budget. One thing which makes us really continuously happy and motivated is those people who write us, "Hey, I have back pain for so many years, and now my back pain is gone." That's kind of super motivating
Yes,
when we
because
hear that.
it's a personal story, as you mentioned, Milad.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the future then for Deep Care? Like, where do you want to take this product? Like, the great thing is you buy one of these, and as you mentioned, it's that size that if you are hybrid, it's literally a USB-C plug and play device. You plug it in, you could use it on any desk.
Yeah, that's correct. Like we have such a interesting roadmap. I think if I want to start, it's gonna take an hour to explain. But let's say from different aspect. The first aspect is we have just started, and now we have started in the US. We were very lucky that we got CES Innovation Award, which is kind of one of the
Yes,
best.
congratulations on that. Like, see, that was my first CES, and I tell you, I have so many product reviews still to do since January, and I'm really enjoying the type of technology that I picked up because I could do a whole day in the life of Justin using different technology from headphones to my desk with ESA as well. Like, yeah, it's fantastic.
That's amazing. And so now we are entering into the US, kind of very massively and kind of with a good speed, I would say. We really would like to reach to every single office worker that works in the US, in the Europe, and so on. So that's like our first step. However, the amount of our features gonna go more. We have done the coverage of spine, and now we are trying to better and better become like the one who do cognitive health because these two nobody in the world does. This is the first one we are doing. And then we are going into different applications like regular checkups exactly next to you at the desk on different levels, on your heart, on your breathing, on different organs that you have. And then what we are in parallel working on is extension to out of office worker, because we have a very good and solid concept there. Of course, we need to start developing this. And a lot of people says, hey, why you don't extend this technology and this approach to both category of elderly and children's? Because they
Yes.
have massive issues. So the pipeline is full with ideas and how we go forward. But the first and utmost focus at the moment is rocket for office workers and help so many millions of
But
people.
there's so many different areas there. Like you're talking about so many different sectors. At the moment, you're just concentrating on the offices and
Correct.
going from Europe
Correct.
to America and then hopefully globally. But I can see how this would work in, old age homes or whatever. If you're just putting that beside someone's bed locker and is
Correct.
monitoring them, like change the concept between an office desk and an actual bed, or if someone is, in a nursing home with their own room,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
and then because it's local, if you got one school to buy into this, to put it at each pupil's desk in front of them. Now,
Yeah.
the key thing is like how to make that without distracting a young child play, because we all know that young children love to play with devices and stuff like that. But there's a lot of room for development there.
It's so massive possibilities there. And honestly, like that's the future of AI, right? Like AI should be next to me, kind of live and helps me whenever I need help. It should understand me. It should be kind of between me and myself. And if you look at, let's say, agentic AI and every buzzword behind, like what is the ideal case? If I have
Yes.
my own, let's say, AI solution that just understand my needs and helps me whenever I need help. And it start with those real problems. Like if you look at problems that we have, it's just massive. Like this so many hours sitting and just doing all this daily work, which we don't notice, it just ruins our musculoskeletal, our brain, our body over years, all diabetes and all of the illnesses that comes out of this whole bad habits of spending times at desk. It all is preventable. There was a study last year, which was really massive study. It says that 78% of doctor visits are actually for preventable causes. So
Right.
78%, that's like massive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of imagine how many trillion euro US spends on healthcare is more than GDP of Germany.
Well, this is it. If it can solve a problem, like one thing that I loved about going around CES, and for a first timer, I've said this many times on my podcast, that you will find some ideas that you just go, this is wacky, and I mean from the top tech firms right down to startups. And what I loved about going around the Venetian Expo is like the fact that you're going from country to country,
Yeah,
loads of different startups. But one thing that I always loved the most is, like yourselves, the healthcare end of things.
yeah,
Every time you hear a healthcare story and healthcare tech, it's someone that has had a problem that has come out with a solution, and they're trying to make something better for someone's lifestyle. And I just found that whole area and that whole vertical absolutely fascinating, between people that are trying to solve diabetes to heating health disorders there. It's, you have come along with the story and you're 5 years down the line, and I love the fact that you have such a roadmap for deep care.
thank you, thank you. It's really like real our vision to make the health as an outcome of our daily life or our daily work, and we are working on that, and we are committed to this. Yeah,
Now, they, as it is local, we better clear this up with some of our listeners and viewers.
yeah,
If you want to update the firmware, so for example, if you have an ESA and you're talking about the roadmap there.
Yeah.
Is it as simple as that you can connect this to the internet and just run the update via the USB?
Exactly. No, actually, you don't need a USB. So the device is connectable to internet. You can
Mhm.
just connect it to internet, but we don't need that in order to run anything, and we don't need any data to go somewhere and come back and so on. But you can connect it to receive all the updates. After receiving the update, you can just again turn off the connection
Wi-Fi. Yes.
or keep it on. And that's one way. The second way is you can connect like to the smartwatch app that we have. Via that, you regularly checking if the software is updated or not. Why we have that? Because anyway, is a local system. Up to some extent, we can keep your data inside of the ESA. If you want to have long track of your spine and cognitive health, you can transfer that data in your local, again, a smartphone app, that it is in your smartphone, everything is in your control. But there also, since we have access to the app in a sense that we can give you the messages, now there is an update and so on, you can also get it through that. But you are in control. If you want to connect it to internet, connect it, get the updates. If not, not. But
Now,
we highly advise, because almost once per month you need to update. There is some reason.
exactly. Yeah. Now, you do have a pricing tier that on a monthly basis. Explain to our listeners like how that works.
Yeah, like at the moment we have 3 subscriptions you can go for. The subscription starts with the ISA Core, ISA Pro, ISA Mind. ISA Core is like a basic features running on that. The basic features are actually movement, ergonomy, hydration, a standing table, and on this regard. The ISA Pro, it takes care of your environmental health as well, ambient health as well. And our specific targeted programs for back and neck is also included there. And ISA Mind goes beyond, and it takes care of a massive analysis of cognitive load, focus, productivity, and so on. Each of that is rather like in a subscription way. You can just pay some initial fee and actually very little monthly fee to get all the updates, to get all the services through the app, and we keep all those data for you that you can come back, or if you visit any doctor at some point, you can show it to them and so on. So you can imagine with this system, you take care of two main points that never been kind of covered with any tracker or wearable before, which you get it on top, you get the coach next to you to change your behavior.
And do you know what? I think more and more, as you mentioned earlier, doctors and professionals will look at this data and just go, oh, okay. Instead of just going into a doctor and going, I think I have a bit of a twinge in my back.
Yeah.
They're looking at this data because the world has changed. Whether you can give the doctor this data from your smartwatch or a device that's sitting on your desk like the ESA. Where do people find out more? Where do they go to purchase one of these devices?
Just go to our website. It's very easy address. So deep, like deep minus care point.com. It's our website. Everything is there. For the US citizens, very soon, in a couple of weeks, we're gonna be HSA, FSA also applicable product.
Wow,
So if
fantastic.
they
Well
have
done.
that,
That takes a lot of work to get those
yes.
approvals.
Yes, that kind of like we hopefully soon get the US stamp on it that we are a health product, and the tax that potentially you should have paid to US government can be saved by purchasing through that. And if you have that account, also you can use it. So yeah, like just go online and get it.
And I look forward to hopefully the next CES to see more. I'm guessing you're going to keep on going to CES
Definitely.
with this product and see the latest developments. Milad, I really appreciate you taking the time out. I love the product. It reminds me all the time to like sit up straight, drink some water, just and do some movement. You've been sitting at your desk far too long. And do you know what? As the summer months come along now, Milad, it's a great encouragement to go, I have been sitting at my desk too long. I'm going to go for a walk around the campus and the park, and then come back and do some more work. It's great to awareness of, like, you know, it will drain you. It will make you give you back pains if you're sitting there far too long. And also the fluid intake as well. So I loved the product, and wish you the best on it. So thank you for joining us on All Things Techie podcast.
Thanks a lot, Justin. It was a pleasure being here. And yeah, of course, we are trying to have a small contribution to the world. And thanks a lot for supporting us.
Great. Well, that's all from episode 146 of the All Things Techie podcast with myself, Justin Dawson. Don't forget, you can find us online on our website, www.allthingstech.ie. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for viewing the program. Don't forget, you can see all previous episodes of our podcast at our official website. You can like, comment, share and subscribe, and visit me across my socials, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram at Sir Justin Dawson. From me, thank you for listening, thank you for viewing, and I'll see you very soon.